I was cradling a steaming mug of coffee, its bitter aroma mingling with the dawn light filtering through my Nashville kitchen, when my phone buzzed with an email that tore my world apart. The subject line was chillingly blunt: divorce. I'm with Vanessa now. Mark, my husband of 6 years, had attached a single photo. Him, his arm slung around a glamorous 24-year-old standing in our family cabin, the sanctuary I'd bought with every ounce of my startup sweat and dreams. My 2-year-old son, Ethan, giggled in his high chair, his tiny hands smearing oatmeal oblivious to the grenade that had just detonated our lives. Vanessa, I'd later discover, wasn't just his mistress. She was a sex worker, her polished Instagram a glittering lie hiding a secret trade. My fingers tightened around the mug, not trembling with sorrow, but pulsing with a rage that burned fiercer than the Tennessee sun scorching the fields outside. 6 years of marriage pouring my heart into raising Ethan, building my eco-friendly startup from a garage into a $1 million empire, planning cozy weekends in our cabin, obliterated in one smug digital betrayal. How could Mark, the man who'd once traced my palm and promised forever, believe he could steal my cabin and our future with a woman who peddled lies for a paycheck? Why did Vanessa, with her curated facade of glamour, think she could invade my life, defile my home, and walk away unscathed? And the question that clawed at my core, did they truly expect me, Laura, the woman who'd turned a single idea into a thriving business, to collapse, to plead, to fade into the dust of their treachery? I'm Laura, 34, and that morning, as Mark and Vanessa smirked in my cabin, toasting their betrayal with stolen champagne, I wasn't breaking. I was forging a plan as sharp and unyielding as the blade I'd need to cut through their lies. This isn't just a tale of a marriage crumbling or an affair cloaked in scandal. It's the story of a woman who saw the storm coming, built her own fortress, and turned their arrogance into her greatest victory. Want to know how I made them regret every pixel of that photo? Stay with me. This is the fight of my life, and you won't believe what happens next. Before that email ripped my world apart, I was Laura, the dreamer who believed love could weather any storm. Picture me at 28, standing under a canopy of Tennessee dogwoods, my white dress glowing in the twilight, as I said I do to Mark, a 36-year-old financial advisor with a grin that promised forever. Want to know the moment I should have seen the fault lines in our marriage? It wasn't when Mark sent that photo with Vanessa, the sex worker who'd wormed into our lives. It was years earlier when I ignored the first whispers of doubt, burying them under the weight of our shared dreams. This is where my story begins, not with the betrayal exposed, but with the fragile hopes that let it fester. Mark and I were a team, or so I thought. We'd sit on our creaky porch swing, sipping cheap Merlot sketching plans for a family cabin, a rustic retreat in the Smoky Mountains funded by my eco-friendly startup's soaring profits. I was 29 when Ethan arrived, his tiny hands wrapping around my heart, and I juggled motherhood with scaling my business, turning a garage idea into a $1 million empire. Mark swore he'd design our cabin's layout, his eyes bright with promises. But love blinds you, doesn't it? I didn't see the shadows creeping in, the moments when his warmth turned to distance, his promises to static. Enter Vanessa. She appeared 2 years ago, a 22-year-old freelance model Mark met at a Nashville networking event. She's got a great eye for branding, he said, showing me her Instagram-polished headshots, sunlit poses, a curated life that screamed ambition. Soon she was everywhere, tagging Mark in cabin photo shoots, texting him about marketing ideas. I met her once at a charity gala, her red lipstick sharp, her laugh too loud as she leaned into Mark's arm. "You're so lucky to have him," she purred, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. My stomach twisted, but I brushed it off. Was I paranoid, or was she circling my life like a vulture? I told myself it was nothing, that Mark's late-night client meetings were just work, that Vanessa was just a colleague. Love makes you forgive too much, doesn't it? By 2024, the cracks were undeniable. Mark's meetings stretched into weekends, his phone locked with a new password he wouldn't share. He'd come home reeking of a musky cologne. I didn't recognize his excuses flimsier each time, just networking. He'd snap his eyes, avoiding mine. Ethan's bedtime stories became my solo duty. The cabin plans gathering dust on our dining table. Vanessa's Instagram posts grew bolder. Cryptic captions about new adventures photos near our cabin's oak tree, the one we'd carved Ethan's initials into. My best friend Megan warned me, "Check his phone, Laura." But I didn't. I clung to the memory of Mark's hand in mine, his voice calling me his rock. Why did I let those red flags flutter past? Was I too busy with Ethan and my startup, or too afraid to face the truth? Looking back, I see it clearly. Every locked screen, every vague excuse, every glance Vanessa stole was a thread in the web they were weaving. I should have listened to the whispers in my gut, the ones that grew louder each time Mark mentioned her name. This isn't just about a marriage fraying at the seams. It's about the moment I learned that trust can be a trap, and how I vowed never to fall into it again, ready to see how those whispers became a roar. The storm's just starting. Stay with me. The truth didn't crash over me like a wave. It slithered in quiet and venomous on a Tuesday afternoon in the heart of my startup's co-working space. I was surrounded by my team, their voices buzzing over pitch decks and sustainability reports, when I borrowed Mark's tablet to tweak a client presentation. One stray notification, and my world tilted. Want to know the moment I saw the affair for what it was? It wasn't a whispered call or a stranger's perfume. It was a single text, glowing on the screen, that ripped the veil off my marriage and exposed a betrayal so vile it stained the very cabin I'd built for our family. This is where I stopped being the trusting wife and started seeing the lies. The text was from Vanessa. "Meet me at the cabin tonight. Usual rate. My heart lurched, a cold sweat prickling my skin as I swiped through Mark's messages. There it was, dozens of exchanges, timestamps stretching back months, detailing meetings at our Smoky Mountain cabin. I dug deeper, my fingers trembling, and found bank statements buried in his cloud, $5,000 in cash, withdrawals cryptic, Venmo payments labeled consulting. Then the gut punch, a browser history link to a discreet website. Vanessa's face staring back from an escort profile, her red lipstick smile mocking me. Photos sealed it, her lounging in my cabin's cedar-walled bedroom, wearing my silk robe. Mark's arm around her, their laughter frozen in a frame that burned my eyes. I stood frozen in that buzzing office, the whiteboard's marker streaks blurring as my mind replayed every overlooked sign. Vanessa's gala smirk, Mark's locked phone, the musky cologne that wasn't his. Was this real, or was I unraveling? I called my best friend Megan, who met me in the co-working lounge, her iced coffee sweating on the table. "You're jumping to conclusions, Laura," she said, her voice soft but firm. Mark's stressed, and Vanessa's just flashy, but her words crumbled against the evidence glaring from the tablet. This wasn't a fling. It was a transaction. A betrayal that defiled our cabin. The place where I'd rocked Ethan to sleep under starlit skies. I wasn't just losing my husband. I was losing the sanctuary I'd poured my startup soul into. I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. Instead, I saved every text, every payment, every photo, my hands steady, despite the storm raging inside. That night in my home office with Ethan's baby monitor humming softly, I opened a notebook I'd once used for business ideas and turned it into a ledger of betrayal. Every message, every withdrawal, every lie Mark told about client dinners, I wrote it all down my pen, carving truth into the pages. Was I turning into a detective in my own marriage? Maybe. But I'd rather be a sleuth than a fool. This wasn't just about catching a cheater. It was about reclaiming my power, arming myself with proof that would make them pay. Want to know how I turn their secrets into my strength? The fight's just heating up. Stay with me. I thought the text on Mark's tablet. Usual rate from Vanessa, the sex worker, was the deepest cut of betrayal that had already carved my heart hollow. But I was wrong. The real wound came in my own kitchen at 6:12 a.m. As I poured coffee into a chipped mug, Ethan's oatmeal-smeared smile my only anchor. Want to know the moment Mark and Vanessa thought they'd crushed me? It was an email cold and calculated that laid bare their arrogance and ignited a fire they couldn't extinguish. This is where their betrayal became a declaration of war, and I chose to fight, not fall. The email landed with a subject line that stung. Divorce. I'm with Vanessa now. Mark's words were brutal, each one a blade. The cabin's mine deeds in my name. I've taken $80,000 from Ethan's college fund. Good luck attached was a photo. Mark and Vanessa in our Smoky Mountain cabin toasting champagne on the porch, where I'd once rocked Ethan to sleep. Vanessa's smirk gleamed her red lipstick, a taunt, as if she'd already claimed my life. Mark, the man who'd vowed to build our family's future, had chosen her a woman whose freelance model facade hid a secret trade in lies and flesh. My coffee cooled its steam, fading like the dreams I'd poured into our marriage, as a second email pinged. You're too rigid. Laura Vanessa's free. She lives for the moment. Free with my son's future stolen and my cabin defiled. I stood rooted in that kitchen, the oak floor cold beneath my bare feet, Ethan's babbling a fragile tether to reality. My mind churned Vanessa's gala laugh. Mark's locked phone, the cabin's oak tree now a backdrop for their mockery. How had I let it come to this? But the betrayal didn't end with Mark. His family piled on their loyalty as brittle as the autumn leaves outside. His sister Claire texted Mark's happy with Vanessa Laura. Let him go, she's vibrant. Vibrant! A woman who sold herself for cash, funded by my stolen $80,000. Even Mark's mother, who'd once called me daughter, emailed, "It's for the best. Move on, move on." They'd swallowed Mark's lies whole, painting me as the cold, overworked wife who'd driven him away. Their words were knives, each one twisting deeper, but I didn't shatter. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my notebook, its pages already heavy with Vanessa's texts and Mark's bank withdrawals, and added their messages to the arsenal. Every taunt, every dismissal was fuel for the fight I was building. Mark thought I'd beg, picturing me as the broken wife, weeping over spilled coffee. Vanessa probably saw me fading into the background as I had at that gala, under her predatory gaze. They were wrong. I wasn't the defeated Laura they expected. I was a strategist, and their hubris was my greatest weapon. I'm Laura, and that morning, as Mark and Vanessa celebrated their theft in my cabin, I wasn't mourning a marriage. I was arming myself for battle. This isn't about a single email or a family's betrayal. It's about the moment I saw their true colors and chose to wield my truth like a blade. Want to know how I turned their cruelty into my power? The war's just beginning. Stay with me. Mark's email wasn't the end of my story. It was the spark that lit my rebellion. As I stood in my kitchen, his smug, good luck ringing in my ears, I realized he'd mistaken my silence for surrender. He thought he'd won with Vanessa's red lipstick smirk and my stolen $80,000. Want to know the moment I turned their betrayal into my battlefield? It was that night in the glow of my office lamp when I shed the skin of the trusting wife and donned the armor of a strategist. This is where I drew my line, securing my assets with a plan as precise as a blade and as fierce as the mother I'd become for Ethan. I sat at my desk, rain streaking the window like the tears I refused to shed. Ethan's baby monitor humming softly in the background. My startup's profits. $120,000 sat vulnerable in a joint account Mark could still access. I opened my banking app, heart pounding, and transferred every dollar to a new Chase account, one he'd never touch. My eco-friendly startup's funds kept separate since day one were my fortress, a lesson I'd learned from a mentor who'd lost her boutique in a divorce. Every click was a declaration. This is mine. Was I being ruthless? Maybe. But a man who steals his son's college fund doesn't deserve mercy. Next, I called Diane, my lawyer, a divorce expert who'd saved a friend's estate from a cheating ex. Her office, cluttered with law books and a ticking clock, felt like a war room. Tennessee's an equitable distribution state. Diane said, her pen tapping, "Your startup and cabin, prove they're yours." And Mark's claims, collapse. Gather everything. Texts, bank records, footage. I nodded my notebook already, a vault of evidence. Vanessa's usual rate text, Mark's $5,000 withdrawals, the cabin photos. Then I struck. The cabin's security cameras installed for wildlife monitoring had recorded everything. Vanessa's late-night clients arriving, Mark's comings and goings. I sent the footage to Diane, who grinned. "This isn't just infidelity, it's a legal landmine." I called my bank voice steady as I sipped cold coffee. "Freeze the joint account," I said, citing $10,000 in unauthorized transfers to Vanessa's Venmo. The rep, a woman named Tara, paused. "Fraud, ma'am," I forwarded Mark's email, his. "I've taken $80,000, a confession in black and white." "He's cut off," I said. Tara's keyboard clacked, her tone sharp with approval. "Account frozen." "Anything else?" I smiled, a spark of victory flaring. "Not yet." Mark's reaction was swift. My phone lit up with his texts. "What the hell, Laura? You froze the account." Then, desperate, "Vanessa's freaking out, undo this." I didn't respond. Instead, I checked Vanessa's Instagram once, a parade of curated glamour designer bags, cabin sunsets, now private, her latest story. A blurry shot of a cheap motel captioned, "Life shifts, fast, shifts." She was sinking her vibrant life, unraveling without my money. Mark's sister Claire texted too. "You're being petty, Laura. Fix this for Mark's sake. Petty. For protecting Ethan's future." My notebook grew heavier. Every text, every Venmo payment, another brick in my defense. Was I playing dirty? No, I was playing smart, building a case they couldn't outrun. I'm Laura, and that night as Mark and Vanessa scrambled in their crumbling fantasy, I wasn't just securing my assets, I was reclaiming my life. Every screenshot, every call was a step toward their reckoning. This isn't about petty vengeance. It's about a woman who learned that preparation is power, and I was just getting started. Want to see how their lies began to crack? The storms brewing, stay with me. I'd drawn first blood freezing Mark's account, securing my startup's funds, and arming myself with cabin footage that exposed Vanessa's secret life. But the real thrill was watching their carefully crafted world begin to fracture. 8 weeks after Mark's smug email, I saw the cracks up close in a Nashville bar, where Vanessa's polished facade was peeling away like cheap paint. Want to know the moment their lies started to unravel? It wasn't in a courtroom or a confrontation. It was the flicker of panic in Vanessa's eyes, the tremor in her curated glamour that told me their empire of deceit was crumbling. This is where the tension rose, and I saw the truth behind their betrayal laid bare. I was at the Rusty Spur meeting a client over bourbon and small plates when I spotted her across the dimly lit room. Vanessa, once a vision of curated elegance. Red lipstick, sharp designer heels clicking, looked frayed. Her makeup smudged her sequined dress, clinging like a last-ditch effort at allure. Her laughter, once bold and commanding, was forced, her eyes darting to her phone as if dreading the next notification. I slipped behind a wooden beam unnoticed and listened. Whispers from the bar crowd confirmed my suspicions. A local gossip blog had leaked Vanessa's escort profile, complete with screenshots from my cabin footage clients arriving under moonlight, their cars parked brazenly by our oak tree. Her freelance model mask was shattered, her clients fleeing after the public exposure. Mark's dwindling savings couldn't bankroll her lifestyle, and her Instagram, once a gallery of Smoky Mountain sunsets and Prada bags, was locked. Her latest story, a cryptic, "Sometimes you fall to rise, fall." She was plummeting, and Mark was no parachute. Mark was unraveling too. My barista Kayla, who knew Mark from his coffee runs, overheard him arguing with Vanessa outside a dive bar. "You said you had connections," he hissed, his voice raw with desperation. Vanessa's reply was sharp. And you said you had money. Mark money. The man who drained Ethan's college fund was buckling under her demands, his family once quick to call Vanessa. Vibrant turned their backs. Claire, his sister, called me at midnight, her voice thick with regret. "We didn't know Laura," she said, choking on her words. Mark swore she was legit, but her job. He lied to us all. Regret didn't undo their betrayal, but it fueled my fire. Their shame was proof I wasn't the naive wife they'd painted me as. But the real bombshell came from Diane, my lawyer, in her sleek Nashville office, the city's skyline glittering beyond her floor-to-ceiling windows. She slid a folder across her desk, her eyes sharp. Mark funneled $200,000 into an offshore account, she said, using shell companies to hide it from you and the IRS. He planned to flee with Vanessa. My breath caught the weight of his greed slamming into me. He hadn't just stolen from Ethan, he'd built a secret vault for their escape, thinking I'd never find it. I added the offshore records to my notebook. Its pages now a war chest, texts, footage, Venmo payments, and now evidence of financial fraud. Was I reveling in their downfall? No. I was fortifying my defense, my heart steady as their lies teetered on the edge of collapse. I'm Laura, and that week as Vanessa's secret spilled across Nashville and Mark's plans frayed, I wasn't just watching their ruin, I was orchestrating my triumph. Their betrayal had handed me the tools to dismantle their world, and I was ready to wield them. This isn't about gloating over their fall. It's about a woman who turned their arrogance into her ammunition, and the battle was far from over. Want to know how I brought their lies to their knees? The showdown's coming. Stay with me. The air in the courtroom was heavy thick with the scent of old oak and the weight of justice waiting to be served. I sat clutching my notebook, its leather cover worn from nights of rage and resolve, my heart a steady drumbeat as I faced the moment I'd built for months. Want to know when Mark and Vanessa's tower of lies finally collapsed? It wasn't in a bar or a blog post. It was here under the judge's piercing gaze, where my evidence tore their arrogance to shreds. This is the showdown that rewrote my future, where the truth I'd carved into these pages became a blade, and I wielded it without mercy. I sat tall, my charcoal blazer sharp, my eyes locked on Mark and Vanessa, across the aisle. Mark's discount suit sagged, his jaw clenched with a fading bravado, while Vanessa, in a cheap knockoff dress, fidgeted her once bold red lipstick, faded her eyes, darting like a cornered animal. My lawyer, Diane, rose like a storm, her voice slicing through the room. "Your Honor," she declared, sliding my notebook across the bench, "Mr. Thompson committed financial fraud, siphoning $80,000 from a child's college fund, and Ms. Vanessa Lyle aided in concealing $200,000 in offshore accounts, all while operating an illegal escort service from the plaintiff's property." The notebook's pages fanned open. Mark's good luck email, Vanessa's usual rate text, bank records, and cabin footage of her clients' cars under moonlight. I watched Mark's face, his eyes widening as Diane played the security feed, Vanessa greeting a man at our cabin's door, Mark's car in the background. The courtroom gasped a ripple of shock. Could they really be this brazen? Vanessa cracked first. Her hands twisted her purse strap as Diane projected the offshore account records detailing $200,000 funneled through shell companies. Mark's lawyer, a sweaty man in a rumpled tie, floundered. My client was misled by Ms. Lyle. He stammered. Misled Diane didn't blink. Misled, she countered, her tone like steel. Then explain this. She displayed Mark's email. You're too rigid. Laura, Vanessa's free. The judge, a woman with gray curls and a hawk's focus, leaned forward, her pen pausing. Theft and fraud. Don't scream freedom, counsel. My chest tightened, not with anger, but with a quiet triumph. Their lies were unraveling thread by thread before a packed courtroom, every whisper from the gallery, a testament to their fall. Mark tried deflection, his voice slick with desperation. Your Honor, I helped Laura's startup. It was our dream. Our dream. The company I'd built from a garage while he scoffed it was a hobby. Diane was ready. "Here's the incorporation paperwork," she said, slamming documents down, "solely in Ms. Bennett's name, funded by her profits." The cabin. Same story, her startup's money, not joint. The judge's gaze bore into Mark. "You've claimed assets you don't own, Mr. Thompson and Miss Lyle's activities on the property. That's a separate legal issue." Vanessa's face drained of color. Her knockoff dress, garish under the courtroom's harsh lights, Mark's hands gripped the table, his bravado gone. Was this the moment they realized their game was over? The gavel crashed like thunder. The court finds clear evidence of financial fraud and misappropriation. The judge pronounced Mr. Thompson repay the $80,000 within 30 days. The $200,000 offshore funds are frozen pending investigation. Ms. Lyle, you'll face separate charges for illicit activities. The cabin and startup remain. Ms. Bennett's. Mark stammered. "But the money's gone." The judge's voice was ice. "Then face contempt, sir." Vanessa's sob broke the silence, a raw, jagged sound that echoed off the marble walls. I sat still, my face a mask. But inside, a wildfire of victory roared. My cabin, my startup, Ethan's future safe. Their lies scattered like ashes in the wind. I'm Laura, and that courtroom wasn't just a trial. It was my emancipation. While Mark and Vanessa faced the wreckage of their greed, I walked out with my head high, my notebook, a shield, my resolve, a crown. This isn't about savoring their ruin. It's about a woman who turned betrayal into a reckoning, and the fallout was just beginning. Want to know what became of their broken dreams? The aftermath is next. Stay with me. The courtroom's gavel had fallen, its echo shattering Mark and Vanessa's world like glass under a hammer. I stepped out of that marble hall, my heels clicking on the polished floor, the weight of their betrayal lifting like mist burned away by a Tennessee sunrise. Want to know what became of the duo who thought they could steal my cabin, my son's future, and my life? Their ruin wasn't just a legal verdict. It was a public unraveling, a collapse that stripped them bare and left me standing taller. This is the aftermath where their lies crumbled into dust, and I found freedom in the clarity of my own strength. I stood on the cabin's porch a week later, the smoky mountain air crisp with Pine Ethan's laughter ringing as he chased fireflies across the lawn. Whispers from Nashville's gossip mill painted a stark picture. Vanessa, her escort career exposed by that leaked blog, had fled to a small Kentucky town. Her Instagram deleted her designer heels, traded for thrift store sneakers. A former client posted online, calling her a fraud who played the wrong mark. Her last known trace was a grainy TikTok, her face drawn, captioned, "Starting from nothing." Nothing. She'd built her glamour on my stolen $80,000, and now that foundation had caved. Mark was no better. Fired from his firm, his reputation torched by fraud charges, he'd slunk into a dingy motel off I-40, his tailored suits pawned to cover rent. Kayla, my barista, saw him at a gas station, his eyes hollow, muttering about starting over. Starting over. The man who'd mocked my rigidity was a ghost. His vibrance buried under the weight of his own greed. Their collapse wasn't just financial, it was deeply personal. Ethan, now 3, clung to me during our cabin weekends, his tiny voice asking, "Where's Daddy?" I held him close, promising a future Mark could never touch. Mark's family, once so eager to champion Vanessa's vibrance, recoiled. His sister Claire sent a handwritten letter, her words smudged with shame. We believed Mark's lies. Laura, she wrote, Vanessa's. Job his theft, we were blind. I'm so sorry I didn't reply. Their regret couldn't erase the wounds they'd helped inflict. Then came Vanessa's unexpected move. A voicemail arrived, slipped through a crack in my blocked filters, her voice brittle. I thought Mark was my way out. She said a ticket to something better? I was wrong. I'm sorry. After defiling my cabin, draining my son's fund, and smirking in that photo, I deleted the message. My fingers steady the weight of her words, no heavier than the autumn leaves drifting past my window. I could have danced on their graves, Mark's motel misery, Vanessa's small-town exile, but I didn't. Instead, I stood in my coffee shop the next morning, the aroma of roasted beans wrapping me like a warm embrace, watching customers linger over mugs I'd designed. Their betrayal hadn't broken me. It had unshackled me. I wasn't the naive bride who'd ignored Vanessa's gala glare, nor the wife who'd forgiven Mark's locked phone. I was Laura, the woman who'd built a startup from a garage, who'd faced a courtroom with a notebook and won. Was this justice, perhaps? But more than that, it was freedom. The freedom to rebuild, to reclaim the cabin's porch, for Ethan's laughter to rewrite my story on my terms. This isn't about their ruin, it's about the moment I saw my own power and how it set me free. Want to know how I turned that freedom into an empire? My rise is next. Stay with me. I stood in my coffee shop, the morning sun glinting off the polished espresso machine, its golden rays dancing across the chalkboard menu I'd hand-drawn for my customers. My startup was thriving, 3 locations, an online store, a name whispered with respect in Nashville's entrepreneurial circles. But the scars of Mark and Vanessa's betrayal lingered not as chains, but as lessons carved deep into my soul. Want to know the secrets that saved me from their lies and forged me into the woman who reclaimed her cabin, her son's future, and her life? These aren't just my truths, they're your shield, your battle plan to sidestep my mistakes and protect your heart, your family, your empire. I'm Laura, and I'm stepping out of the story to hand you 5 hard-won lessons so you can rise fiercer, faster, and never let betrayal snuff out your light. Lesson 1, trust your gut. That text on Mark's tablet, usual rate from Vanessa, screamed trouble, but I nearly drowned it out, swayed by my friend Megan's voice. You're jumping to conclusions I was conditioned to doubt to smooth over instincts for the sake of peace. Don't make that mistake. My barista, Kayla, ignored her gut about her fiancé's late-night work calls and found her savings gone when he vanished. A 2023 study from the American Psychological Association found 85% of women regret dismissing early red flags in relationships. Your intuition is your first line of defense when it whispers, listen. It's not fear, it's foresight. What's your gut telling you today? Lesson 2. Secure your finances. Now freezing Mark's account and transferring $120,000 to my private Chase account saved my startup and Ethan's future. I almost hesitated, thinking separate accounts were untrusting. That's a trap. My client Sarah shared a joint account with her ex and ended up homeless when he drained it. A 2024 Forbes report says 65% of women lose significant assets in divorces due to shared finances. Open a private account today, even if it feels cold. Your security is worth more than sentiment. Why risk your future on someone else's promises? Lesson 3. Document everything. My notebook, Mark's emails, Vanessa's texts, cabin footage was my sword in court. I recorded every lie, every $5,000 withdrawal, even when it felt obsessive. It won my case. Contrast that with my neighbor Jenna, who trusted her husband's. We'll fix this and had no proof when he sold their home. Evidence is your armor. A 2022 Reddit thread went viral when a woman used her ex's emails to secure alimony. Start logging now texts, receipts, suspicions. What's stopping you from building your shield today? Lesson 4. Hire a lawyer. Early. I called Diane weeks before Mark's email when Vanessa's photo shoots first raised alarms. Her advice, separate assets, gather evidence, saved my cabin, my startup. I nearly waited thinking lawyers were for real trouble. Don't fall for that. A 2024 TikTok trend showed women losing businesses by delaying legal help. My friend Lisa waited too long and lost her retirement fund in a divorce. An hour with a lawyer can save years of loss. Why wait for the betrayal to strike when you can fortify now? Lesson 5. Turn pain into power. Mark and Vanessa's betrayal could have buried me, but I channeled it into my startup's expansion. Mez, my cabin's reclamation, my fight for Ethan. Every scar became a brick in my empire. I think of my mentor, Carla, who turned her divorce into a chain of Nashville boutiques. Pain isn't your defeat, it's your fuel, but it's a choice. A customer. Maria stayed in a toxic marriage, letting pain define her until my story inspired her to leave. Will you let betrayal dim your fire, or will you let it forge you? Choose now, because your power is waiting. I'm Laura, and these lessons aren't just my victory. They're your blueprint. Mark and Vanessa thought they'd shatter me, but they only sparked a flame that burns brighter today. Now I'm inviting you to join me on TPT Affair Stories, my YouTube channel where every video is a beacon for your comeback. If you've ever faced betrayal, doubted your strength, or dreamed of rebuilding bolder, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me the moment you trusted your gut or wished you had. Like this video, share it with a friend who needs this fire and ring that bell so you don't miss what's next. Next week, I'm sharing how I scaled my startup through chaos secrets you won't want to miss. Don't wait for someone else to write your triumph. Join me on TPT Affair Stories and let's ignite your empire together.